Emerging from the hellish nightmare that is the warp, the colossal vessel known as an Ark of Omen has appeared, and with it, everyone in the galaxy has realized just how real the threat is. Abaddon has struck dark and terrible deals, and now he has the power to move entire legions aboard a single space hulk, wherever he desires, and almost no one was ready for such an attack. Almost. For you see, there is one Craftworld who is especially skilled in reading the strands of fate. Craftworld Ulthwe did not fully realize what was about to happen. However, they did know something was coming, and more importantly, they knew where. They had foreseen that they would be no match in a large-scale attack, even with their far advanced space fleet, but rather a small, elite strike force might have a chance to tip the scales and give them the opening they needed to fight back. Farseer Rayla of Ulthwe slipped the small strike force onto the Ark of Omen into a blind spot between the mishmash of wrecked and fused together vessels that made up the giant space hulk that would allow the Eldar a path to a secondary control room. If they could make it to and shut down enough of the systems in this area, it would give the rest of the Eldar fleet a small avenue with which they could spring an attack and maybe even slow down the inevitable oncoming destruction. Accompanying Farseer Rayla is 2 units of the famed Ulthwe Black Guardians, each bringing a star cannon weapon platform, perfect for gunning down heretic Astartes that they knew they would be facing. And lastly, 5 Dark Reapers with an Exarch. Everyone has Reaper launchers, and the Exarch is bringing Reaper's Reach. This will let the entire unit ignore the move and fire heavy weapon penalty. This will be key in the boarding patrol battle, as moving through the tight spaces will make the difference to controlling vital choke points. Within the Great Ark, Warpsmith Skadric Skoss of the Iron Warriors was tinkering within a subsystem, poking and prodding at the corrupted machine spirit and warp entities that somehow allowed them a level of control over the space hulk. It was a fascinating thing, for he had seen demon engines before, but nothing to this scale. Perhaps if he could glean some hidden knowledge, he would be able to apply it to his own works and elevate his own status within the Grand Company. While he worked, a curious thing happened. The voice of a warp entity seemed to whisper to him of intruders, urging him towards the lower deck of the ship. Was it a trap from a malicious entity? Or perhaps the increased awareness of the ship due to the immense level of demonic infusion? Either way, it was a mystery that Skadric needed to answer. He swiftly summoned to him his retinue of 5 Chaos Chosen, and a nearby squad of 10 Legionnaires equipped with the Icon, Plasma Gun, and a Melta-Gun. Lastly, he was pleased when he saw that they had dragged along 10 cultists with a mixed rabble of weapons and a random chaos spawn, perfect for sending ahead to spring whatever trap inevitably waited for them. Drawing his plasma pistol and power axe, they set off to explore the depths of the Ark. What's up everyone, Chris here with Salty Island, and this is the narrative campaign we have been waiting for. Arks of Omen is here. We didn't get the terrain and book in advance, but we did build a suitable table, and in today's custom mission, we are playing the Craftworld Ulthwe against the Iron Warriors. The deployment will be 3 inches from the short table edge, no options for reserves. Objective-wise, there are 4 smaller command consoles set around the battlefield. Units with objective secured can perform the secure objective action to reprogram the consoles and retain the objectives even if the units walk away in a subsequent turn. Forces will score 5 points for holding a single secondary console, and 5 additional points if they control more consoles than the opposition. In the upper center of the battlefield, there is a larger primary console. The difference with this is units cannot perform the secure objective action on this, as it's a more complex system that requires it to be tended to much more carefully. Forces will score an additional 5 points for holding the center console. In addition, while up top on that platform, they will be completely open to enemy shooting and will receive no benefits of cover. Lastly, at the end of the game, there is a bonus 15 points for controlling the primary console and a bonus 15 points for controlling more secondary consoles than the opponent. and the game is set to last 5 turns. The Iron Warriors win the roll-off to take the first turn, and every unit advances forward. The 10-man squad of Legionnaires had been split up into 2 squads of 5, with each squad making directly for one of the nearby secondary consoles and immediately begin their work to reprogram to the control of the Iron Warriors. The Chaos Spawn leapt ahead with a big 13-inch advance, unconcerned about traps or ambushes, while the Chosen Squad forced the cultist mob ahead of them to take the brunt of any initial attack. Scoring will take place at the start of each turn, so for now, the Iron Warriors are in control of 2 of the secondary objectives. The Eldar likewise advance forward. Both Guardian squads have split up into 2 units of 5. One squad each begins to reprogram their secondary objectives to allow the Eldar to control this area, while in the center, the Guardians use a strand of fate dice, and on the advance roll, this way they can set up the heavy weapon platform to provide them at least some lines of fire. The Dark Reapers and the second weapon platform are slower to approach, waiting to see how the battlefield unfolds. Again, with scoring taking place at the beginning of the turn, both sides are now in control of 2 of the secondary consoles. In turn 2, the Iron Warriors score 5 points for holding at least one of those secondaries, but they don't control more. The Chaos Spawn senses something is amiss, and slows its progress to peek around some crates, allowing the cultists to catch up to it. Down at the bottom of the table, the Legionnaires advance forward, making it to the bulkhead doors, and at the end of their movement phase, they open the doors, allowing them access to the main hallway. Likewise, on the other side, the Eldar also score their 5 points for holding one secondary console. Down at the bottom, a bad advance roll, and even with the command point reroll, is not enough for them to get within 1 inch of the door, and they miss their chance to open it. The remainder of the forces all move forward cautiously, every unit declaring overwatch as they prepare for the inevitable clash over the center of the battlefield. In turn 3, the Iron Warriors score another 5, bringing their score up to a total of 10. The Chaos Spawn shrieks as its warp-enhanced senses recognizes the scent of prey and moves up. The Eldar are ready, and recognize that if the spawn is allowed to charge, it will tie up its lines, costing them valuable lines of fire. Every unit declares the overwatch against the spawn, intending to kill it before it can become a nuisance. It takes all the firepower they have, but the Eldar are able to kill the spawn using weight of their shuriken catapults, star cannons, and reaper launchers, eliminating the initial threat. The cultists looking to flank moved around the other side of the crates, and down at the bottom, the Legionnaires walked forward 6 inches and make it to the other side of the door. Unfortunately, down at the bottom, the Legionnaires opened the second set of doors, right in the face of the Guardians and Farseer Rayla. Caught by surprise, bolt shells and plasma shots tear into the Guardians, killing 4 of their number. The firm words of the Farseer encourage the last Guardian to stand strong in the face of their hated foes. The cultists are also able to draw a line of sight, but even with the mix of weapons they have, they are able to bring out 12 autogun shots to models not in cover. Thanks to Wanton Massacre rule, they land 9 hits and then 6 wounds, and are able to kill 3 of the Guardians. The Chaos Marines then charge into combat into the last Guardian, with the Farseer calling heroic intervention, hoping to cut down some of the Iron Warriors with her singing spear. Legionnaires obviously bring down the last Guardian, but any attacks against the Farseer are deflected with her invulnerable save, and in return, she fells one of their number, dealing 2 wounds and killing that Iron Warrior before they're able to complete their pile-in move. On the Eldar's turn, they score 5 points, keeping the game close. The entire army repositions in preparation to cut down the enemy with volleys of firepower. The Farseer finally gets to make good use of the psychic phase. Using one of its strands of fate rolls, it uses an automatic 6 on the smite cast, though even with the +1 on the first spell cast on each turn from being Ulthwe, it doesn't quite reach the power number to cast the boosted smite. Even still, 3 mortal wounds kills 1 Legionnaire and putting a wound on the second. For the second power, she casts Crushing Orb, succeeding and then scoring an additional 3 mortal wounds, killing 2 more Legionnaires, all but clearing out that squad. The Dark Reapers open fire into the cultists, able to move and fully fire their heavy weapons thanks to the Exarch power. 10 shots land 9 hits, and then 7 wounds. The cultists get no saves, and a large majority of the squad is immediately wiped out, with the momentum of the battle swinging heavily into the Eldar's favor. Both heavy weapon platforms and their guardian squads are able to draw a line of sight into the chosen squad. The shuriken catapults get a great roll, 3 of them triggering the boosted AP and killing the lead model. Star cannon shots do their best, but only manage a single wound. One cultist flees from the shooting before moving into the close combat phase. The Legionnaire champion swings with his power fist, but thanks to a command point reroll from the Farseer, she saves all but 1, taking only 2 wounds. In return, the Singing Spear fails to slay the last Marine. And at the end of the 3rd turn, the score is still tied at 10 apiece, but the Eldar have significantly thinned out the lines of the Iron Warriors. Starting turn 4, scoring 5 points, the Iron Warriors make their move. The Warpsmith and the Chosen Squad move forward in a position to charge into glorious melee combat, while the 2nd Legionnaire Squad makes a poor advance roll, but does head up the stairs towards the primary console. In a move inspired by the Chaos Gods, the cultists run through the open door, heading straight for the Eldar's secondary objective console, with the last Legionnaire distracting the Farseer. Firing bolt pistols and plasma pistols, a wound gets chipped off the weapon platform, but the plasma pistol fails to land even with the command point reroll. Not that it matters, as the Chaos Army is now in the wanton slaughter, letting all their 6s to hit explode in close combat, counting as 2 hits. The Chosen charge both squads up top, and the Warpsmith charges into the remaining Guardians on his own. And the results are devastating. The Warpsmith easily clears out the remaining Guardians with its Exalted Power Axe, and up top the 4 Chosen use their accursed power weapons to decimate the Eldar through just the sheer volume of attacks. The Farseer fights back and slips his spear past the defenses of the Iron Warrior champion, killing him and freeing him up to deal with the cultists. In the final few rounds, the Eldar don't have enough firepower to fight back. While they are still scoring the secondary objective, the Farseer is able to clean up the 2 cultists before they can steal their objective back, but the Dark Reapers, in a string of incredibly bad luck, are unable to kill the Warpsmith. Worse, the Chosen are able to clear out the remaining Guardians in the Eldar phase, which gives them a free path to steal their objective in the final turn of the game. At the end of turn 4, going into turn 5, the end result is all but clear. The Iron Warriors are able to score 5 points on the 5th turn for holding their objectives, and 5 additional points for holding more. With that said, the Eldar no longer have the forces to steal back or even go for the primary objective, and at the end of the game, the Iron Warriors score the bonus 15 points for controlling the primary console, and another 15 points for controlling more secondary objectives than the Eldar. With 10 points going to both sides for the fully painted army bonus, this brings the final score of the game to the Iron Warriors 60, the Eldar 30. Seeing her forces being swept from the field, Farseer Rayla orders the command for her remaining Dark Reapers to retreat. They had failed, and worse, she had lost Eldar lives doing so. But not all was lost. The information she had managed to steal from the lone terminal she yet controlled could be analyzed, and just maybe, she would be able to find a weakness they could exploit to hold back this threat. Warpsmith Scaradic Goths did not even bother to chase the fleeing Eldar. Their presence was entirely unimportant compared to the trove of data that his forces had uncovered. This yet unexplored area of the massive Ark of Omen was his to plunder, and with his knowledge, he would rise in the eyes of the gods and the Grand Company. This was the moment where his story to his rise of power would truly begin. We hope everyone enjoyed this boarding patrol battle report. We'll be having more of these coming out in an ongoing story, and the reports will be linked together, and we'll be keeping track of how many wins each side has. So for now, we really appreciate you all checking us out and hanging in there with us. Please go ahead and hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see how the rest of the narrative campaign plays out, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that way you won't miss any future videos. Thank you very much, and we're really excited to bring this content to you, and we look forward to seeing you all in the future. Peace out, everybody.